Hope you're having a good day. This is a Ficus Microcarpa. This one is commonly called the tiger bark. I picked this guy up just about a year ago. I've already worked it several times. And then this October, or actually I guess the October previous now that we're in the new year and everything, but a little over 4 months ago, I cut it back pretty hard, wired everything, and I've just kind of let it go through the winter. You can see it's grown quite a bit since then. Got some pretty long shoots sticking way out there. Didn't really see that the way it was sitting out there. But what I'm going to do today is just kind of get in here and take off. There's all kinds of just bad growth where it's growing down and straight up, etc. And then, you know, from the crotches of branches, some of these long shoots, like that one I just pointed out way out there, will come off. But I do plan on leaving kind of, I say branch selection, but I'm leaving behind a bunch of twigs that I want to save. And then I'm just going to let it go for a while without any wire on it, and just let it be itself for a bit. Once I get it cleaned up some, maybe I can show you some of these scars. And I'd like to let it run just to kind of maybe work its way through some of those. I did pick it up on clearance, and there's a whole little spot in here where there's a bunch of dead bark, and you can actually see, even just from where I let it go over the winter, that some of that bark is actually kind of cracking apart and getting either replaced by new growth or just kind of getting outgrown by something maybe inside of it. And then that's just cracking up some of the dead spots that were there. So again, maybe if I let it run some this spring, perhaps it'll just kind of help heal some of that up. And then also there's just a very large chop scar right there. And again, the only thing really healing that would be the apex. Not much to the apex. So if I can get the wire off for now and just let it grow for a bit, that really should help things quite a bit. But first, just with a little contrast, I was going to show, I mean, this tree, even on clearance, you know, I don't like to talk about money all that much, like what I spend on things, but I spent $100 on this on clearance. And then I'm going to bring this one guy in here. I actually think I bought this for $2. It was actually when both Walmart and Lowe's used to discount things just way down to almost nothing. Now the most they'll do is like half price. Alright, and then quite the contrast down to this little guy here. And with me in the picture there, you can get a little bit of a better idea of how much smaller it is than that other tree. One thing, you know, just the contrast in price. But I think sometimes the whole believability as far as being, you know, an ancient tree and everything, I think sometimes the smaller ones can be kind of cool. Once they do get a nice, I mean, this isn't a perfect Namari by any means, but it is getting a nice little spread on there and everything. But once they start getting the look, I mean, it's a lot, I mean, there's just reasons in the hobby why I would like this a little bit more. Just simply, it's a lot easier to handle. When I go to repot this guy, it'll take a couple cups of soil. When I go to pot the other guy, it'll take half a bag of soil. When I work this guy right now and wire it, probably take me maybe half hour, 45 minutes or so. When I wired that other guy, that took me almost a half an afternoon there and everything. So just kind of the differences in the workload that it takes to take care of a smaller one and a larger one. Just, you know, they both have their drawbacks. But anyhow, like I said, this was just a clearance plant. I actually had it, like, planted in the ground. I mean, I'm going to show you some old pictures here now. I had it sitting on a mesh basket, and basically I had that sitting on the ground. This was where I grew a sacrifice branch out. I actually have a nice little cutting growing from that. And then just some other chop scars along the way. It's been in this pot. Actually, it's been in the pot probably for like 4 years. I think about 2 years ago, I repotted it. I just did a quick root trim and put it back in there. And I'm thinking that when this starts pushing leaves after I do this prune now, I may do the same thing. I may try to get it in a little bit more of a decorative pot. Kind of depends on what I see when I pull it up out of there. But also, just even if I do that, kind of depends on what kind of time I have. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get to work and get some wire on it. You notice I left leaves on the apex here. I have been chopping this apex. I mean, I could probably point out like 6 of them. There's one here and one here. There's actually one on this back side, one there. I'm going to guess that that's where that scar came from, and these two. Well, I've been trying to kind of grow that out, not only to heal that scar, but just to kind of keep it more as an informal kind of a look with the bigger branches on the bottom. Ficus will always just try to go straight up if it can. But I've noticed that the apex really could and should be a little bit taller. And so I'm just leaving that there. This branch, I'd actually see on a couple of these, growing a lot quicker than these or even this one. So I left the leaves on there. Now that that's the only foliage on the tree, that'll really keep going, especially for the next week or two. All of this will leaf out in its own time. And I'm going to get wire on all that. And then because this one's growing so quick, I'm going to make sure I get a little wire on that, hold that down. Probably just include it in one of these other pieces when I wire that. I was able to use, I actually mostly used wire on it. And it's not wrapped super great. But spring is springing here in Florida right now. And this wire will not be able to stay on very long to begin with. So I'll let this bite, and again, I might consider repotting this tree when it does bite in a little bit. I think it could be raised up in the pot some, maybe even just a slight angle change, but we'll just kind of wait until then. Alright, and now back to this guy here. I did try to zoom in just a little more just so you guys can see a little bit better. I don't know if you can tell how much more growth there is out on this side than there is kind of going that way. And I'll try to give you guys a good look once I'm done, but you can actually see the main part of the stump is actually here. And this is actually kind of a growth coming off the stump that way, if you will, where this is directly from it. Usually with a tree like this, when I plan on just taking the wire off and giving it a light prune, I take the wire off first. But there really is so much growth, especially on this branch here and a couple other ones that are on this side, that it's kind of hard to even just get in there and start unwiring. So I'm going to try to take off most of that. And then whenever I get to taking the wire off, probably a few more branches here and there, and we'll just kind of take a look at some of the stops along the way. The way I do most of my trees is really kind of killing me not to cut this apex back, but right at the end of the video here, I'll show you that chop scar on the back that I'm trying to allow as much growth up here as possible so that it'll cover that up. And remember, whenever you're healing a scar, anything below that scar, all this growth below, anything up here is not healing, and it's only the growth that would be above it that would do any of the healing. So I am going to leave that alone. I'd like to tidy it up some, but not right now. And just look all the way around. Alright, I believe it was either in the last video or 2 videos before, I chopped this branch here. It was kind of big and it was coming out, covering up the trunk here. I did want to expose the trunk. And then this is, so you can put my hand under there where the stump actually continues here. So that is kind of an extension out there where this was all like dead parts of the trunk. There is a dead spot here which is above the actual stump, if you will. But that's why there was so much growth coming out this way, is this is more attached to the actual nabari. This is just kind of off to the side. But as I noticed over the winter, as I've been letting it grow, some of this bark, even though I knew that section was dead, has been cracking up like a little bit more, kind of peeling apart some, and I think part of the reason why is that some of this growth is actually allowing it to push some aerial roots, and I don't know, or actually adventurous roots maybe, if you will, but right there where my finger is where the cracking stops, and there's roots dropping from that, and it even just has the appearance that some of that crack is kind of bubbled up from the root coming out there. Go ahead and peel off some of the easier spots there, but one of the reasons I'd like to go ahead and let it run for a while, just see if I can kind of maybe bring some life back to some of these either dead parts of the trunk or just allow it to grow enough to kind of reject some of that old dead bark there. I did say I'd show, here's that bigger chop scar there, kind of covered up with foliage from that direction, but I did try to clean that up some the last time. And again, just from here up, all there is just that one apex, so one branch for the apex. So I'm gonna let that run too.